Well, yes, it did require, I think I wasn't doing a proper double click. Uh, so I think it's on its way now, Diego. Anyway, we might as well get started. Good morning, everybody. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David, and it is a cold morning here. 11 degrees outside. Boy, I don't know when spring is coming, but it certainly is not very attractive climate here in New Zealand at the moment. I don't know why I came back. Perhaps next year I should go away mid-August to mid-September. Anyway, it is 1007.3 and rising. No wind, and it's what the no wind is from the south. I know that sounds very Irish, but anyway, it is, if it does do a half a puff, it is from the south, which explains our low temperature. 90, well, it was 90% cloud cover before. I think it might be a little bit more. It's just a heavy alto stratus at the moment. But anyway, good morning, everybody, to you. Don't think there's too much by way of reports have come in. I'm just scanning through yes, at the moment, and there is no weather reports from people, so we'll just wait and see what might come in while I am talking. So a bit of news. It is, of course, 9/11 today. We're a little bit ahead of the USA, but 9/11, for those that do want to bear a thought, for those that lost their lives during that fiasco. Some good news, though. Jean on Narida, some of you may have heard her on the various nets, SOPAC net. She did a round the world. It was her third attempt. She's 77 years old, and she has now completed her around the world without stopping. 338 days, 28,000 miles, probably about 5,000 hours on the radio at a guess. She's back in Victoria, BC. She did make a stop in Timaru, but she got no assistance at all. She just stopped in the harbour to make repairs. She had a knockdown between Tasmania and New Zealand, so that caused a bit of ruckus. And she was very slow because she had a mainsail problem in the Atlantic and sailed just with the jib for a long time, until I think about Timaru. So there she is back in Canada, where she left from. She's actually a British lady, but I think she left from Canada, where her home is now.
She's going to do it again?
I hope she doesn't do it again. Could we all cope? Anyway, North Korea launched some missiles east yesterday. They went about 330 kilometres before dropping into the sea. Then they offered to resume nuclear diplomacy talks with the USA. I don't think anyone took too much notice of that. Oh, but the good news was that cargo vessel, that huge cargo vessel I talked about yesterday, that turned over on the Georgian coast, that's Georgia, America, down the bottom there. They had 4 men trapped, but the Coast Guard and whoever was working with them cut a hole in the hull and got them out. 35 hours they were trapped, and evidently they were rather pleased to get out. I can imagine that. That was a pretty good rescue. Everyone was quite happy about that. The craft that India sent up to the moon has been found lying on its side on the moon. Oops, we've got a bit of a problem here. Chat discontinued. Please wait while we reconnect you. I am having trouble with this streaming, isn't it? It says it's live, but the chat has been discontinued, successfully connected. Well, God knows. I will just carry on. This is meant to be a radio program. Okay, the craft has been found on the moon, lying on its side, but they are not able to communicate with it. They are assuming that there was some problem with an engine or thruster or something. It was in the last stage of the approach to the moon. Something malfunctioned. Okay, for those of you who use cruisersat.net, you may or may not have been contacted already, but it has been rebranded. Kostya didn't like the name, and the domain name is now Following Sea. Good name, isn't it? Following Sea. And he has actually got somebody working with him now, which is good. Some of you may remember Ed on Tioga. He's in Vancouver. So he's a part of the Following Sea team now, and you will notice a few enhancements and changes over the next few months, evidently. All you have to do is replace cruisersat.net with followingc.net. You don't really have to do anything urgently. You'll be told about it, but if you want to make the change, anything that you have with Cruisersat in it just goes to Following Sea. So that's a good development there, a bit of help for Custer, he and his family are, where are they at the moment? Fiji, I think. Okay, the next one is for the New Zealanders. Lancaster Park is now officially no more. The end of the demolition, which cost $12 billion, has just been completed. It was, for those people who don't know Lancaster Park, it was a very exciting sports event centre, rugby, cricket, athletics, cycling, pop concerts, royal visits, you name it, they had it there. But it succumbed to the 2011 earthquake in Christchurch, and the stands and so on were cracked, and the repair costs were just going to be too much. So Lancaster Park is no more, except for the stone gates that were erected in 1924 as a memorial for those that did not return from World War One. So Christchurch has really changed. It's one of those places I don't think I would recognise anymore, what with the earthquakes, or two earthquakes, and still a lot of red areas where they can't rebuild. They wouldn't rebuild either. Off the coast of Newfoundland, there was a huge 30-metre wave recorded in the wake of Dorian. This was from a well-calibrated, accurate measuring buoy. There were about 3 waves topping 22 metres, and this one at 30 metres. The winds were gusting about 95 kilometres per hour. Boy, a 30-metre wave. Boy, that'd be good for kiting, wouldn't it? You'd go a long way.
The wave was generated by earlier winds.
Earlier
that type of wind
winds,
wouldn't
yes.
make a wave that
All
way.
right, yes, I knew you'd say that. Okay. There's a lot of stuff from England, of course. Boris Johnson has suspended the UK Parliament for 5 weeks ahead of the Brexit deadline. Lots of grumbling and all sorts of carry on, but anyway, we'll see what happens there.
Can I say something about
Do you
that?
want to say something about that? We don't really cover a lot of detail
no.
in politics, you know.
You're a Kiwi, and I certainly am not a Brit, that's for sure. But these politicians over there, they just got off of a month's vacation, and now they're back, and everything is all go, and it's an emergency, and they're criticizing everybody. What in God's name were they doing on vacation during all this?
Well, you have to have a holiday.
Why? They don't do anything?
Well, yeah, they do. They go to Spain and get some sun. Okay, where was I? Well, we've got the first. This is news. This is Southern Cross leaving Noumea today to go to Australia, the Queensland. First departure from the islands for the season. So, boy, it's early, isn't it? It's only, well, I suppose it's mid-September, but they'll be on their way today. For those ex-military folk out there, the Sig Sauer company have released pictures of the weapons that would replace the US Army's M4 carbine and the M249. Interestingly, they are sand-coloured. But that was a surprise. Okay.
What are they calling it?
I didn't read it, what they called it. I was actually interested in what it looks like. They look really light with these new materials that they're using, and lots of space in between things. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I presume they'll go through a great checking process.
Yeah, trial by fire.
Trial by fire. Talking about firing, Mr. Trump has fired yet another of his people. The National Security Advisor, John Bolton, has been tweeted that he is no longer required. He decided that Mr. Bolton's policies and Mr. Trump's policies did not align. So there you are. Well, I'll tell you what, you'd have to be paid an awful lot to be part of Mr. Trump's in a circle because you don't last very long. All right, let's have a look here. Still no rain in Fiji. Thank you, John. 95% cloud, 5 knots, southeast. Looks like the front is over us, but no rain yet. Nusatroy. Oh, it took 5 minutes for the stream to start. Boy, I'm going to have to start it a bit earlier. Port Vila, Eagles Wings, good morning to you, and also to Eye Candies in Port Vila now. 2 knots, variable, 1015.5 and 100% overcast, and no wind at Crony. I bet they've gone down to welcome Y2K. 50% cloud cover, 20 degrees. They're complaining about 20 degrees. They should try 11. Yeah, John was saying the opposition don't want to be out of Parliament. Well, it's a good place to be. They get well looked after there, don't they? All right, that's about it from what I've got. Let's see if there's anybody out there in the big wide world. We did get somebody from Tonga, by the way, that are up there enjoying the Vavau area. So we will be including Tonga in our roundup. But haven't seen anybody else come in. Where's Imagine at the moment? They haven't got a report here, but they have got. Oh, they must be over in New Caledonia somewhere. Nope, there's nobody here with any weather, so we'll just have to rely on David for his weather. Is there anybody out there wanting to give us a report? Please call. The sounds of silence. Yeah, it's a wonder that we can keep talking. I don't think there's too many even. Well, there's only a few on streaming too. Maybe we should only do 2 days a week. That would be good, wouldn't it? All right. If there's nobody out there, then we'll make this fairly quick. I will pass the microphone and we will get through the weather. David's just going to blow his nose, but I will hold the microphone away from the nose area so you don't get the full snorting sound there. Here's David.
You have to give me a warning when you're going to do this. Okay, good morning. And we'll start again with 500 millibar.
Oh,
what do you mean, oh God? Come on. 500 millibar. Remember, it's west slanted. So, and it is, of course, a shortwave, and it's still quite active. The axis, if you were to draw a line, if you're looking at the upper level charts, runs pretty much from New Zealand to Hervey Bay over in Australia. Hervey Bay is about 25 south. Gives you an idea of where that is, and also the angle that axis is making. Why does anybody care about the axis? Well, generally, when you have a left-leaning axis of that nature, that usually means that what is underneath is probably going to increase in intensity. However, well, before I get to that, the winds on the east side of the axis, this is at 500 millibar now, we're running about 90 knots, 90, and 500 millibar is roughly 18,000 feet, 18,500 feet, right in there. Now, the jet streak that we talked about yesterday is still there. It's between the North Island and New Caledonia, running essentially west to east. And the winds there for the streak are about 175 knots. Now, both of these features are slowly drifting east. So while we're talking about the slanted shortwave, because of the fact that it is moving off, we're not going to have the strong effects because it's just not going to be here much longer. So that is very good news. In fact, all of that nasty weather by Thursday is going to be pretty much to the east of New Zealand. Now, behind it, we have a high, and I think Patricia talked about some of the fires and whatnot that were in the Queensland area of Australia. Well, that high, which unfortunately helps support this fire, still there. That's fairly strong. The central pressure is 1030 millibar, 1030. And it's pushing a ridge out into the open ocean. By Thursday, it will cover all of the cruising routes. So we could expect at that point, I would say south-southeast to southeast trades north of 25 south because of this ridge and the way it is orienting itself. By Friday, the ridge pushes all the way out to 160 west, so you can see breeze between here and there. So I don't believe we have anybody that's other than commercial fishermen that are out there at this point. Now the weather for the islands, I'm afraid, is going to be quite mixed over the next couple of days. Not so great for Tonga and Fiji today and parts of those areas tomorrow. Vanuatu gets a bit of a light hammering today through Saturday, really Friday and Saturday. Newcastle may endure some convective activity Thursday and Saturday. We did have some yesterday with the extension of that cold front from New Zealand. Pretty rotten for Wallis and Samoa, that whole area up there. We have a fairly active trough that's affecting those two areas. So anyhow, looking at, we'll just look at Fiji right now. The promised trough that I mentioned yesterday has arrived. It is very slow moving, I may add. Both Trish and I are looking right now at real-time satellite imagery, and the bulk of the rain-bearing clouds are still just a touch north of Vanuatu. Cloud goes all the way down well south of Kondavu, but the stuff that's going to bring in the rain is still a bit to the north. But anyhow, later today, I think you'll be seeing occasional showers, and there'll be some pretty heavy falls at times, particularly over Vanuatu. They're going to be first in line to catch this trough as it comes south. The Lau also is going to get hit pretty good. And really elsewhere as the day rolls on, just about everywhere is going to get some form of precipitation at times. So the wind in general for Fiji, northeast 10 to 15. They'll be shifting to the east to southeast a little bit later. Tomorrow you could expect east to southeast about 15 to 20. And there'll be a continuance of showers then as well, thanks to this trough. So back to the tropics in general, fairly unstable up there. The Solomons Trough does in fact have a tropical disturbance that's twirling around up there. But that trough that's emanating from that area affects the Santa Cruz Islands, as it usually does when it goes east, and that's the one that's hitting Fiji and Tonga as well. And it goes southeastward from there. Now we have another trough that runs from Tokelau to the northern Cooks, and cloud from this Solomon's Trough also affects northern Vanuatu, but it's a different trough that is actually bothering the rest of the chain, two separate events, if you will. And that New Zealand cold front that was bothering New Caledonia with rain, that has actually drifted a little bit to the northeast. We could see it quite clearly now on imagery, but it still may drop down a bit to bother New Cal from time to time. It's one of those things where it's very hard to tell which way it may go. It's covering at the moment. Now it's just departing from the loyalties. So yeah, it's moving fairly rapidly when it does decide to go. Jumping over to Tonga, now that we know somebody's there, as mentioned, it does lie under the Solomon's Trough as well. In fact, we've got a heavy rain advisory for Tonga Tapu, and that comes from Tonga Met. And you can see on satellite imagery why that would be quite a bit of rain-bearing cloud right over that area. Vavau and the Hapais, they could expect cloud and showers as well as wind from basically the north to northeast are helping feed this trough. That air that's coming in that direction, it's very moist and it's very warm. So it's going to be just bouncing head on with the air that's to the south. And that, of course, is going to create quite a bit of convective activity. Winds for those two areas, Raval and the Hephaestus, look to be north to north-northwest by around lunchtime today. A little bit different now, but by lunch, north to north-northwest, I believe. Fairly light, I'd say 10 knots in the mean. When I say that, that's when you apply the formula of plus or minus 5 knots, and then 40 to 50% on the gusts. So mean wind of about 10 knots. Now by dinner time, it's going to shift probably to the northeast. In other words, those winds that I had described before that are coming in from the deep tropics are going to reach down onto the Hephaestus and Raval. And what else? Yep, they'll just definitely be clashing with westerlies, actually, as time goes on. Tomorrow, expect to shift everywhere to southeasterlies. So things are moving fairly rapidly, I suppose you can say, for the Tonga area. Now, jumping way over to Vanuatu now, since we talked about Fiji a bit, trough conditions do prevail today and tomorrow. You could expect showers for the key areas, Luganville, Port Vila, Lenikai down there, and Tanna. Those three areas can expect showers today and tomorrow. And, wow, looking at temperatures, it's very interesting, particularly late in the season like this. There's always a delay between seasons as you look at it on a calendar and what really happens with weather. But down there at Lenikai, where the mountain is, the volcano, it's expected to drop to 14°C. 14°C. And it's going to warm up, though. They estimate getting up to about 27 later in the day. And by the way, that's Friday the 13th when this happens. Friday the 13th, for those of you that are superstitious. I'll give you a few actuals this morning. Santo, south-southwest at about 3 knots, not much air. Broken to overcast, barometer 1013. Afate, Port Vila area calm, broken to overcast, barometer 1014. Tanna was calm, broken to overcast, 1014 as well. And down there at Anisham, south 10, overcast, barometer 1015. Now by lunch, I would say winds for the chain itself are looking south to southeast in the 15-knot range. Tomorrow, a little bit more air, I think. Southeast getting up to about 20 knots in open water. And there are a few areas that look like they might be up to 25 knots. And finally to New Caledonia, the back edge of the trough is over the Loyalties, as I mentioned. But every now and again, looking at the loop, it looks like it wants to come back and visit. So who knows? It may edge back onto the southern lagoon. In any case, cloud may reach there. So that will be the story, partly cloudy in other words, with the sun breaking through quite a bit. Winds in the lagoon, our southern lagoon, south-southwest, about 10 to 15. And they'll be slowly backing by dinner to maybe south-southeast in the 10-knot range, so not too much air. Tomorrow, though, a little bit more. Southeasterlies 15 to 20, and there'll be some cloud with that, and occasional showers, I think. So we'll see what direction that trough finally takes. The outer reef at 5 a.m., these reports, by the way, are actual reports, folks. These are not forecasted ideas. So the outer reef, 5 a.m., south-southwest, 19 knots. Ile de Pan of south to south-southwest, about 10 to 15. And Noumea, south-southwest, 18. And I'll give you Balap, which is way up in the far north of New Caledonia, just to give you a feeling for the overall picture. Southerlies there, 16 knots, that's flat. So that's the weather as we see it. Fairly quick look at what's going on. And if you have any questions or comments, I don't know why I say that. We never get any comments.
No, they're probably in bed still.
You guys should think of some questions to ask. Yeah, you really should. Okay, here's the chief.
Well, the other thing is you could do the odd lesson. You know, they've got to think about passage making shortly. Talking about passage making, Exocet Strike are going to be heading to New Cal next week. So everyone's gradually getting west to where they want to do their kick-off from. Noumea, by the way, is currently, well, they had light rain earlier on this morning at the Southern Cross, 6 knots from the south now, scattered cloud. So, yeah, well, is there any comment? And if you do have anything you want covered, whether it's weather or news, then let us know. We can include it in the morning show. I'll just pause now to see if there's anybody with anything that wants to be covered now. Well, there is somebody there, boy. And I can't work it out because there's too much noise. Diego, did you hear anybody? Or I need a relay for that boat, or whoever it is. Please call now. I think that was the Southern Cross, so you'll be in Noumea with quite a lot of noise. Can you work out what was required? Okay, I have got you, Peter. Go ahead. Yep, got your email, and we'll certainly cover the trip from Noumea to Queensland. You are sort of aiming for Southport, but might end up at Bundaberg. I'll just see if he's got anything to comment on now. No, he says he will, there's nothing dramatic at this stage. He will cover things tomorrow when you're on your way. Over. Okay, and hello to Catherine. All right, I think that was the one we were trying to get, so it came up quite well once I knew who it was and what they wanted. It always helps when I've had a warning with an email, because then I don't have to scratch through the noise to get things. All right, is there anybody else? Nothing heard there, and unless there's any relays, which I'll now pause for.
We should probably try to get an idea as to what people are thinking about coming back to New Zealand, what their departure dates are going to be. Yeah, David has just said it would be good to get an idea as to when people are thinking of the trip south. The trip to Australia, of course, is not a problem, but the trip to New Zealand is a little bit more significant. So if people could just drop an email to let us know when your timing is, just roughly, doesn't have to be accurate, but it would be good to know how much time we've got to just talk about general things rather than get into passage ideas. So it seems to vary from year to year. So if you could give us an idea when you're looking at making the passage, whether it's mid-October, late October, early November, or whatever it happens to be, just give us an idea so that we can start thinking about things and not cover passage weather too early, because it gets a bit boring after a while. All right, I don't think there's anything else. We'll leave you to your much warmer day, and we will be back again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody. Gulf Harbour Radio is clearing the frequency. It's all yours. Local talent is looking for an early October departure to New Zealand from Vanuatu. Okay.
Gee, I hope the weather improves.
Yeah.